All right. Hopefully you can hear me. I have access to my audio. Not let me go ahead and fix that. Welcome to the live. There we go. Hopefully you have access to my audio. Everyone can hear me loud and clear. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to talk about a couple things today. Opportunity. Get on. Say hi to the people.
Original.
All right. So happy Monday. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had a boom. Camera two. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had the opportunity to spend time with their loved ones. I am back in the lab. This is Major League TV. I'm going to take the opportunity for probably the next hour, hour and a half, talk with you about whatever the fuck I feel like talking about. Mainly politics, news, entertainment, anything that comes across my timeline. I would love to create a conversation, have some dialogue. So any streaming platform you're watching me on, whether that's YouTube or Facebook, feel free to drop in the comments, say hi. Love the interaction, love to talk with people, love to chat with people. Hope everybody's having a great month. Um, you know who's not having a great Monday? Pete Hegseth, your Secretary of War, as it were. Pete Hegseth is not having it because the world, political world, probably the world in general, is talking about this man being prosecuted for war crimes. Whew. Bear with me, I'm figuring out the technical shit. So they're talking about this man being prosecuted for war crimes because of what is his actions in the Caribbean. Uh, Also, the report, the damning report that came out about apparently U.S. forces at his discretion and at his um, orders bombed a civilian boat still between 9 and 11. There were two people, two civilians hanging off the boat still alive. And when asked by his military officials, what should we do with these two people? He reportedly said, kill them all. This is the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. This was reported by the Washington, I think it's the Washington Post. So uh, he has the whole world having a up close example of how he runs things at the Department of Defense and how he sees his actions and his job role in the Caribbean. He is comfortable doing it. So on top of that, on top of the fact that this news is kind of blockbuster, the President of the United States probably started to realize that this is illegal. This not only can get him impeached, one of the many, but also one of the many things that can get him thrown in jail. But apparently he watches a lot of TV all day long, and reports are that he heard um, Senator from Arizona, Mark Kelly. He heard Mark Kelly state that this is a war crime, this is illegal. Would explain to him, explain why it was illegal on one of the shows he frequents, probably Fox News, and started distancing So there's a good chance in the near future that he's going to hang the exit that out the drive. So um, that's the big news out of today. That's probably why uh, Mark Kelly is because he's the person that was interviewed probably on Fox and informed the president that what his Secretary of Defense is doing in the Caribbean is a war crime that makes that would make him, effectively, if he gave the order to do it. So fun time. So, um, like I said, the Washington Post that Pete Exit, and I'll read the story so you get a better idea. The Washington Post reports that Pete Exit allegedly ordered a second military strike specifically to kill survivors in the boat off the Caribbean. All right. So the Washington Post is reporting that Pete Exit allegedly ordered a second strike. Pete Exit ordered a second strike specifically to kill survivors of a boat that the U.S. military had already attacked in international. So senators from both parties, so I think Mark Kelly, Tim Kaine, Ed Markey, and a few other Republicans are calling the attacks clearly illegal and a violation of U.S. Tim Kaine quoted as saying, "A clear violation of law." Mark Kelly quoted as saying, "Clearly not lawful." Senator Ed Markey went further and said, "Pete Exit is a war criminal, should be fired immediately." I add to that, fire, prosecute immediately. So Exit denies um, the story, um, but does not dispute giving the order. I think he called the story fabric. So there are Republican leaders that are normally aligned with Texas are also signaling concern. So there's the bipartisan group of people that are calling for investigation. So this whole story is blowing up, and a lot of people are very, very much concerned with what's going on with the exit in the Caribbean, and if a lot of these strikes are lawful. This, for context, this isn't the beginning of the conversation on whether these strikes in the Caribbean are lawful. It's been somewhere around, excuse me if I'm wrong, it's somewhere around 11, 12 strikes total, uh, starting in the summer in the Caribbean of boats off Venezuela and boats off other countries um, that have killed, last I heard, somewhere around 63 people before this. And there have been no um, approvals from Congress, no approvals from the Senate to issue this. This is effectively Trump uh, engaging in war activity in the Caribbean without the approval of Congress and without the approval of a lot of people are saying that that is illegal, right? I for one, believe that, if you are killing civilians, whether on land or in international waters of other countries, that is without the approval of Congress, that is illegal in the state. What Hexit did specific is a violation of international. So shit's kind of crazy. But what I wanted to an opportunity to see about still a trending topic on threads. Uh, so Adam Kinzinger is former military agent, former congressman, and I guess he's the correspondent for CNN now. Post on threads. The House and the Senate have both expressed interest in investigating the strike on survivors of the throat strike. Both Hexit and Admiral Bradley need to answer tough questions. This is a reminder not to follow illegal orders. So this is important, definitely an important reminder. But leads on to a story we talked about last week when Trump was all up in arms, that a group of congressmen and senators, including Mark Kelly, I think Adam Kinzinger too, made a PSA directed at current military personnel that they have a moral, and some say legal, responsibility not to follow illegal orders. And I read somewhere that some part of their oath that they take, that if some orders are given that go against the Constitution, um, that they are required to not follow. That's what I think exactly who said, but that's some people. So, Kinzinger, a couple other people released this PSA about that. Uh, Trump probably taking his cues from Fox News and Newsmax, whatever the fuck went on a rant saying it's illegal. He posted crazy shit about killing and punishing these senators and congresspeople with death for doing the right thing and reminding these service people that they could be personally held liable, personally held criminally responsible for actions that they know are illegal. This is why you're seeing all these resignations. There was a resignation very recently. I'm sure we're going to be able to see it in the next hour of the military general responsible for actions in the Caribbean. Black man, I forget his name, but very recently said no more, quit. Uh, this is, I'm not exactly sure if it was before or after Hexit gave the order to kill them all, but it was before we heard the news. Here's one of my favorite creators. Here's why with Kevin. I think this guy's from New York, but one of my favorite creators. If you're on Threads, he's on Instagram too. Follow him because he gives great insight in political news, great videos, and posts about it. So he posts today, the White House named Admiral Frank Bradley as the man responsible for ordering the second strike that reportedly killed two men who survived the strike on the boat in the Caribbean on September 2nd. Initial report claimed that Secretary Hexit gave the orders to kill them all, but Hexit denied that strike ever happened. Today, however, Caroline Levitt said Admiral Frank Bradley had U.S. special ops authorized by Hexit to give the order. So it sounds like shit's running downhill. That's my interpretation. Shit's running downhill. Meaning, Trump is giving orders to be in the Caribbean to strike all these boats. He's giving general permission, is my interpretation, Pete Hegseth has been making the call on a strike basis, strike by strike basis, to bomb these boats. I believe Pete Hegseth gave this order to kill these civilians off the boat because I it's hard for me to believe that tenured military brass that have been in like Admiral Bradley, been in the military 30, 40 years, would make the call to kill a civilian, right? Knowingly kill a civilian, right? So I believe Pete Hegseth made this call to just kill them all, right? Sounds like a Pete Hegseth quote, not a fucking military brass quote, right? Um, Over the weekend, Trump, in his binge of Fox News, News Nation, all those other places, realized that they fucked up. That this news was coming out, that they were intentionally killing civilians, right? And somebody must have informed them this is a violation of international law. This is a war crime. He started distancing himself from Pete Hegseth last night on Air Force One, right? Saying he generally stood by him, but if he believed the story was true, he would not have advised Pete Hegseth to do it, right? That's last night. Today, some new name, right? Apparently, uh, Frank Bradley thrown under the fucking bus, and my guy Kevin is reporting that Pete Hegseth is saying that Admiral Bradley gave the order to kill them. Let's see what crazy ass Caroline Levitt.
He was well within his authority to do so.
Separate details about that strike. He just said U.S. operations in the area were lawful, and he said that the story and media reports were fabricated. So to be clear, does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe.
So,
In accordance with the laws of Hegseth have, and I have a.
And the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order.
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
To clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
And separate details about that strike. He just
interesting. Throwing this man under the bus is another question.
You said that that second strike was in full accordance with the law of armed conflict, but the Navy's own manual of law of war says that specifically firing on survivors from a wrecked vessel is an example of a war crime that's forbidden under U.S. law and the law of armed conflict. So was that second strike in following law of armed conflict in that second operation?
Again, Andrew, I would reiterate to you the strike was conducted in international waters and in accordance with the law of armed conflict.
Venezuela strike. You said that that second strike was in full accordance.
But it's definitely common knowledge to military and military persons and lifelong military admirals, right? The people who it would not be common knowledge to are people like Caroline Levitt, people like Texas, who was a weekend Fox News anchor, right, for a long time, and people like Donald Trump, who don't have, generally speaking, an appetite for knowledge on any subject. Right, so that's interesting. Um, please join the conversation. If you're watching, drop a question in the comment, drop it and say hi. I'd love to create some community engagement with this. But this is, from my estimation, a big story going on today. Let's see what other people and online have to say. All right, so this user Ash Renee 411 saying Caroline Levitt just confirmed the very thing he has called fake news. Pressed at the podium, she acknowledged that Hegel authorized the second follow-up strike on the alleged drug bust. The same strike the Washington Post report killed two survivors clinging to the burning wreckage after the blast. After a weekend of denials and mocking the media, the Post report stands. So I think this person, Sal for Congress, gives great clarity to what's actually happening. Caroline Levitt, um, says the strikes that killed suspected cartel members of the Caribbean were authorized, right, and carried out by Admiral Frank Bradley. I think they're spreading the blame out a little bit and trying to pull exit from it, trying to pull himself a little bit away from the direct action of striking these boats and also making the specific call to kill these two people. While the reason why South for Congress over here is probably calling Caroline Lyon Levitt a liar or Lion Levitt is because A, he's probably heard her talk. Um, B, she's still pushing the theory that all this stuff was illegal, knowing what that reporter just said, that in the military handbook, the reporter just pointed out that it states that if we are that example of a war crime with killing civilians or killing someone who has surrendered now, and someone clinging to a boat that's been exploded, right, does not pose a threat, effectively surrendered, would be considered a war crime. And to that, Caroline Levitt said, reiterated her bullshit that everything was clean, everything was done by the book, and this was all legal, and which is the line Pete Hegseth is taking, which is the line generally speaking, the president. And the Hill is kind of reporting it that way too. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt confirmed that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the second follow-up strike on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean in September, following a bombshell. Post claimed the order. Washington Post report claimed he ordered the military to kill everyone. Got the View talking about it. Let's see what the View has.
Speak to the law of it. I don't know, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but in terms of the law of it, you're right, Sarah. That is why those Army vets explained do not follow, you do not have to follow illegal orders. You know why? Because if this is deemed to have been war crimes, which by all accounts right now, there are 7 sources that said Pete Hegseth did say kill them all, even after there were 2 survivors. What you're supposed to do under international law, you are supposed to take those fighters as war criminals, prisoners of war, and you're supposed to give them refuge, and you're supposed to take care of them, and then you are supposed to put them into a court of law. Instead, I can't speak to the law of it. I don't know, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but in terms of the law of it, you're right, Sarah. That is why those Army vets explained, do not follow,
This is the
you do.
important thing. This is the exact reason why those military brass and those people in that video said that they should not they should not be following the legal order, right? Because they know this is wrong. A, B, they can be personally held responsible. Everybody, right? He Hegseth for giving the order, the admiral for carrying out the order. The kid who pushed the fucking button that dropped the bomb on these two people, Venezuelan civilians, right? Who I would reiterate, the U.S. government, U.S. military has issued no evidence whatsoever to date that any of these people in the Caribbean that they've been bombing since I want to say August have been narco terrorists. They state this over and over and over again. These are narco terrorists. These are narco terrorists. No evidence whatsoever, right? No phone calls, no pictures, right? They're asked for evidence. They give nothing, right? So, um, in this country, we have a standard innocent until proven guilty. They have not offered any evidence, let alone tried these people, right? Let alone given these people any sort of even uh, partial due process, like a semblance of due process, right? They went from suspicion, and a lot of people would uh, argue that it probably wasn't even suspicion, but that they probably knew. Really. They went from suspicion to murder, which is not only morally just incomprehensible, corrupt, but also international war crime. And all these people are complicit. Once again, if you're joining the stream of the live stream, I want to thank you. I'm Major League. I'm going to be live streaming at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be live streaming until about 4. If you see me on YouTube or on Facebook, feel free to join the conversation, jump in the comments, say hi, share this with your friends. Let me know if there's anything specific you want to talk about or want me to talk about. I want to make this as interactive as possible and make this a consistent thing. So let me know. All right. And especially if you have any comments or anything you want to talk about specifically about that story, and we'll talk about that and other stories. Just some, So this thread user, Austin P. Prochaska, says realistically, AOC and Ro Khanna are the ideal candidates for president if we don't have a corporate, moderate Democrat at the White House in any position. I actually like Ro Khanna. I actually like Ro Khanna a lot. I feel like of the very of the very small minority of Democratic um, uh, congressmen and senators that actually believe in what they say, right? he's one of my favorites that actually believe in what he says and has the skills enough to kind of get things done. Um, he's the Democratic congressman that worked with uh, Congressman Massey to get the House to um, approve the petition for the discourse petition to release the Epstein files, right? So he's done a lot of practical work, and he's actually um, believes in what he says. Like a lot of people in Congress, unfortunately. And I love AOC. You know, it's probably one of the smartest um, people in Congress and one of the biggest fighters for real working people, for real working families, not actually corporations, right? I don't necessarily agree with this person's take that they're the ideal candidate or the only candidate, right? I don't know if Ro Khanna himself has that kind of um, has a sight set on the White House per se, or has that kind of ambition in him. I don't know if AOC is um, has that kind of ambition now. I would think she's thinking more along the Senate, uh, and I would think there are probably people who are in better positions to be the Democratic candidate for president in 2028 that would see her as a great vice presidential candidate, like Gavin Newsom, or even J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, who I like. Yeah. Oh, big big house race in Tennessee tomorrow. Um, Afton Afton Ben, I think that's her name. She's the Democratic candidate for the um, but in any event, um, she last I saw the poll, she was like 2% off the lead. Is in the margin of error, statistically tied. When she was down by a lot, I think it was like 17, 18 points, even a couple months ago. And it's a district that Trump won by 22 points. So if um, she wins with Marjorie Taylor Greene retiring or leaving from Congress, you know, the we're kind of at a virtual tie in the House of Representatives, which is going to effectively make Mike Johnson involved. Here's another thread by Adam Kinsey. Looks like Trump and Hegseth might be preparing to throw the military under the bus on the second strike. This is why you don't execute illegal orders if you are responsible. And he also says the same people I used to fight with the who wanted to withdraw American troops from everywhere now they want to fight. It's almost like I think that's Hegseth that wants to put this military brass, um, like throw the military brass under the bus. I think Trump is positioning himself to throw Hegseth. And you know, from his perspective, he's like, look, if you can get yourself out of this, great. Makes me look less stupid and crazy. But I think that's Hex's strategy because that it kind of whipped, right? Um, not taking any responsibility for it. He doesn't know what he's doing at all, so he's going to put the onus on people who do actually know what they're doing, right? That's what makes sense. Oh yes. So her name is Afton Ben, right? A lot of people are calling her. She's calling herself the AOC of Tennessee. Like I don't know enough about it. Apparently, she's in a great position to win. She's running for Tennessee's seventh congressional district. If you or your people are in Tennessee's seventh congressional district, let them know they're going to get the ass out of the vote tomorrow because the people are within striking distance of what happened, or at the very least tying it, so that we don't have to deal with Mike Johnson and his obstructionism. We can shut down the Trump agenda and Project 2025. So let's get takeout. Talk to you. Here's a post from tagline: "Stories everyone eventually." But they're saying Senator Sanders blasts U.S. as an outlier with 530,000 yearly medical bankruptcy. None in peer nations like Canada. Fucking outlier. Like, outlier like implies that there's a graph and we're like a blip in it. But like we're the only line on the graph. It's just us with people going bankrupt due to medical. Fucking, this is the other thing I want to talk about. Fucking Keystone Cash. There's this new story that came out. Fucking Cash Patel. And there's like here it is. So 115-page report says that FBI Director Kash Patel is running the bureau. So this is the story itself. So dozens of current and former FBI agents describe the FBI under Patel as a rudderless ship, chronically underperforming and paralyzed by fear. They say Patel is in over his head, lacking the experience, judgment, or credibility to run the nation's top law enforcement. Agents also accuse Patel of misusing FBI resources, including assigning an armed team to protect his girlfriend and using government aircraft for personal trips. His girlfriend's like some sort of like, she's like some sort of country thing. So Cass Patel's girlfriend is Alexis Wilkins. She's a country singer and conservative political commentator. They began dating in 2003. So apparently, currently, your boy Keystone Cash is putting her on military flights, like chartering military flights to go pick up his girlfriend. He is trying to, or has assigned her military protection, right? Not his family, not his mom, right? His girlfriend. So, and has used, government aircraft for personal trips, right, with his girlfriend. So, because the FBI is, independent, stable, political, apolitical, or tries, a lot of people are up in arms. Patel, a lot of people think, are has turned the FBI into this chaos, loyalty-driven operation. They purged all the career FBI agents, career analysts, career investigators, and now at the hierarchy is googly eyed Patel, right, and other Trump loyalists making decisions, right. We remember a couple weeks ago when there was some sort of, I want to say Milwaukee, there was some sort of terror plot that the FBI was investigating, and Cash Patel jumped the gun and made a Twitter post about, hey, we locked up these guys, and then the people end up getting away because the what they had at the time was just an investigation into a possible terror organization. But he jumped the gun because he's a podcaster, right? He is a conspiracy theory podcast, right? So he jumped the gun. He wants to be the first one to report it, not knowing that he is in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigations. He's not in charge of TMZ, and he let criminals get away. So people are saying that the bureau is mismanaged, and insiders are saying that it's falling apart from the inside. So the story last, but there was a lot of hubbub that Donald Trump is getting tired of Cash Patel, specifically for these headlines. Now, this is like a New York Post. Yeah, this is a New York Post story that that there's an internal report, 150 internal report, called the FBI rudderless ship. But there's also been other reports and stories that Donald Trump is growing very tired of him, for specifically for stuff like this, because of terrible headlines. I think what's happening is some of these stories are starting to break through in the like bubble that Donald Trump lives in, right? From what I understand, like the religious watches cable news talk to him and looks back and forth between not CNN, but sometimes CNN talks about it, but Fox News, News Nation, OAN, and he stays up late watching Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel to try to have a fire, right? So he's religiously watching TV, like a lot of people are religiously on social media. Right? So Um, what's happening is the stories that make him look crazy, make him look inept, make him look like he hired the wrong people, and make his government, his administration, look like the Keystone Cops are starting to break through a little bit, and that's getting to him, right? Because this is what he sees. He doesn't hang around a lot of people that are going to tell him the truth, right? He doesn't hang around a lot of people that are going to be like, you know, Pete Hegseth and Cash Patel are incredibly underqualified for this position, right? Um, which is not only a bad look, right, but is incredibly dangerous to the country, right? To have a weekend Fox News anchor as your Secretary of Defense and a conspiracy theorist podcaster as your head of the FBI. But here we are, you know. So like no one's telling them. So all this stuff is starting to break through a little bit, and he's getting a better understanding of um, what type of people he hired and what the press, the mainstream press, not just the people that like him, like you know, slurp, say and think. Right? He's getting a better understanding, and reports are those reports were last week that he was thinking about firing Cash Patel. You know, we get reports this week that you know Pete Hegseth, all this stuff with Pete Hegseth, and he's trying to distance himself from Hegseth. Starting last night on the on Air Force One. So what I think is happening is, you know, he's getting a better sense of the fact that the worlds are kind of falling apart. The wheels are kind of falling off of his administration, and he hired terrible people. And he's getting leaks from outside of this insular bubble of people that you know are only interested in telling him what he wants to hear. They can get stuff from him, like Stephen Miller. Tell him what he wants to hear, so that they keep listening to him. Right? He can be the president. So he's starting to hear leaks from outside of that, and that's where we start hearing the stories of him throwing Hegseth under the bus, him going Cash Patel under the bus. Because in all seriousness, these are some of the most incompetent people. These are some of the most incompetent people that have ever taken this post. Pete Hegseth is one of the most unqualified people in the position, in a government position like this. Only less unqualified, or only by Cash Patel, right? So I think that the president is starting to get a better idea of what position he put the government in, the position he put the administration in, right? And it's starting to crack the stuff. Fuck it. I love that for him. I love that he's getting a better idea that you know the people that he's putting in these positions are inept. And what's interesting, I was thinking about earlier, is, you know, in his first term, Trump really took advantage of the fact that he kind of was able to control the news cycle with crazy shit after crazy shit. He'd do one thing one day. The press will talk about it like you know it's the end of the world, and at each time like there's you know valid concerns that you know for the country, for the administration. Um, but the next day he'd do something totally different, all to hide the fact of what he's really doing, right? And what he's been doing all along, what he's probably doing today, finding other ways to enrich. But now it looks like um, that same process is kind of working against him. think they're trying to be a little, because now he has Stephen Miller, right? He has Stephen Miller in the talk. So now they're trying to be a little bit more tactical with implementing some of the stuff. They're trying to be more tactical, implementing some of the stuff that they want to implement for their agenda, Project 2025. So what's happening is they wanted to make the story this whole week to be immigrants are overrunning this country and they're putting people in danger because the whole situation in D.C. on Friday was the big headline situation in D.C. where the National Guard, two National Guard members were shot and the one young lady passed away. They wanted that to be the numbers, right? So they can do this whole week of immigrants are terrible. We need to crack down. There's the interview he did last night on Air Force One. He doubled down on his vow to denaturalize U.S. citizens who have been, naturalized citizens, people who weren't born in the country but actually, became a U.S. citizen through the normal process as a response to the two National Guard people being shot. So, what was an advantage? Sorry about that. What was an advantage um, last term, where they can kind of use, they can do some crazy shit, have the news cycle turn, and effectively, there was too much going on for everyone to keep up. Now they want to use that, they want to be more deliberate with the news cycle, and they can't because there are too many inept people in this administration that they can't keep one consistent message. They wanted this week to be about immigrants and how they're the cause for the problem that we had in D.C. over the week. But now the news today is Pete Hegseth is crazy. Pete Hegseth might be a war criminal, right? And they have to. They are spending all their time distancing themselves from Pete Hegseth, distancing themselves from his actions in the Caribbean. Caroline Levitt spending her whole news time trying to push the blame away from Donald Trump and to some extent away from Pete Hegseth onto military brass, right? Without actually looking like you're blaming military generals, right? And admirals, career military men, right? They have to spend today doing that instead of pushing the let's all hate immigrants agenda that they want to do. So big difference in how they're communicating this administration versus the previous. A lot of the old tricks, a lot of the old tactics that the Trump administration did in the first term just aren't working. I think a little bit of that is first term he had more career heads, career government workers at the heads of these agencies, right? So there was less chaos and everybody wasn't crazy. Shit wasn't falling apart to this extent. A little bit of the maturity in the media space, right? I think the maturity in the media space can't be attributed to corporate media. I think they're falling for the same. I think corporate legacy media is falling for the same bullshit that they have always been falling for. If there's like an issue, like it's blinking or something, I don't know exactly. Usually fixes itself. But legacy media is still falling for the same trick. Right? Legacy media is still kind of legitimizing what Trump is doing and saying, right? Presenting, a Caroline Levitt, as if like um, she's going to answer truthfully, or this isn't like um, absolute craziness that they have to ask the question in the first place, right? So they're still not necessarily doing the job. The difference is legacy media is dying, right? There are a lot more people getting news from streamers. There are a lot more people getting news from social media. There are a lot more people getting news from, I would say, podcasters and media personalities who used to be that have went out, ventured out, and created their own platform, right? There are a lot more people, like media itself is more fractured, right? So more people are getting different types of opinions. More more news is getting disseminated, and you get more people that listen to commentators, analysts that call bullshit on the Trump administration, aren't necessarily beholden. I think a good example of that, probably not the best example, but a good example of that is Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is seeing the advantages of not being beholden to corporate media that a lot of other people, like Don Lemon, like Joy Reid, people who I love, are seeing the advantages of not being beholden to corporate media. Right? You don't have to push their lies. You don't have to push their agenda. You can say what the fuck you want to say, right? In a lot of different instances. So you get that coupled with the fact that there aren't um, all like the government or the administration doesn't have a lot of career government workers, career government agents. It's just a lot of weirdos, podcasters, a lot of conspiracy theorists, a lot of people like the head of terrorism investigation was a landscaper in Texas. But you got a lot of people that are not in positions that they shouldn't be, right? Also, I don't know if you've seen the president lately. He ain't hitting on all cylinders. You see that image of him? Golf course, Brick, 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 Brick. All right, so let me show you. Did you see this image of your boy? Uh, I don't know, man. Kind of looks like he passed away 3 days ago. Nobody told him. See the like I don't know if he was in the middle of eating, or saying, or talking to somebody, or doing something, but he don't look great. He don't look all there. Meanwhile, this picture's of um, Sleepy Joe Biden, looking great and spry. There's a great picture of Joe Biden getting ice cream over the weekend. Like, just looking like he's having a great time. Just looking like he's loving life. Like, didn't he beat prostate cancer? Like, fresh off of prostate cancer recovery. But in any event, he's looking real spry, smiling at people. Handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving, and greeting veterans and the homeless and all this stuff, and just having a nice, pleasant ex-president, former president lifestyle, right? And Donald Trump is looking like almost decrepit when you see him outside of a suit, and, outside of makeup or whatever he does, to get himself all orange. But you got that too, right? The fact that their fearless leader ain't looking as spry and young as he used to be, and he ain't all there. We need to see those MRI reports, because he's not hitting on all cylinders. He's just not. You can tell in tweets, you can tell in rage, you can tell, um, in the interviews that he's had. He's had so many more instances where he's just like spazzing out on reporters, calling him nasty, called that lady pig for some reason. He's disparaging um, longtime journalists for just asking basic questions that almost every journalist should be asking. He's just not um, like mentally where he used to be, or frankly where he needs to be. And I think all these things are kind of coming to a head when we're to make it so we're like dealing with a different animal this time around. And Trump 47, right? We're dealing with a different political landscape where they would think that they're doing great. They're doing the normal things that they used to do. They think they're doing great, but they're not. Right? They're doing terrible, and I think it's obvious. You can tell by his approval. I think the most recent update I saw about that was like his net approval rating went down to the lowest ever. I think by but in any event, right? He's getting the lowest poll numbers that he's ever had. He is getting more pushback from Republicans in Congress and around the country. MAGA's at its lowest level that it's ever been, right? The amount of people that call themselves, there's more people that describe themselves as democratic socialists in this country than describe themselves as MAGA, right? Which is a huge term, a huge difference. So he's kind of not in the best position. Things that were working for him in the past are not working for him. So not political related, but Derrick Rose being hired by the Chicago Bulls as an assistant. I feel like I speak for all of America. Good things happen to Derrick Rose. Good things happen to the country. And remember, if you are catching me on YouTube, or if you're catching me on Facebook, feel free to drop a comment. Feel free to drop anything. Say hi. is a good point. Someone's saying on Threads, uh, heck reality, hack reality. Seems like a Hexeth, Noam, Bondi, Patel, RFK Jr. resignations is a dodge. Impeachment is the only way to block Trump's pardon. No shortcuts, no exits, no consequences. That's a great point because I feel like the at the end of the day, all these resignations are going to, are going to be a patch on this administration. It's a short-term setback because they're just going to put another loyalist in its place. Like the likelihood of him firing RFK Jr. and then putting an actual doctor, like someone who believes in science, like in his place, uh, is low and kind of ridiculous to even think it would happen, right? So the I think the only way to like seriously solve a problem and get true reform is to get Trump out of office. And to his point, you know, what's likely to happen if he gets rid of all of them, let's say he gets rid of Hexit, Hexit gets rightfully prosecuted as a war criminal, right, for his actions in the Caribbean. He's just going to get a Trump pardon, right? Because Hexit knows what the bodies are buried. Hexit is going to have a great case if he wants to start talking against Donald Trump. And the last thing he wants is feel like Pete Hexit is backed into a corner, right? Pete Hexit, I think, had 7 kids. Pete Hexit's family is in danger, right? Um, and he's going to want to throw someone else on them, right? And someone else is going down with him. So the likelihood of Trump putting competent people in these people's place is low, crazy. The likelihood of Trump just pardoning these people after they resign and get prosecuted is probably ridiculous. He pardons people for no reason. He pardons drug traffickers, right? For no reason. So, don't look at Hexit getting fired or Cash Patel getting fired as the solution. It'll be great because they're terrible at their job. And give us some semblance that there's consequences for incompetence, consequences for like being evil, right? But it's not going to solve the problem. All right, I'm going to log off live. I want to thank everybody who tuned in to view. I'm going to try to do this every weekday from 2:30 to 4 p.m. and jump on stream and just talk shit and talk to people. If you ever see me on live, feel free to jump in, give me a shout out. Feel free to share it. Feel free to jump in the comments. Feel free to say hi, ask a question, give me your insights. Let me know how you feel about what I'm talking about. It'll be greatly appreciated.